My name is Clint, and this is Yin Yoga. And thanks for coming. Okay, today we're going to start in bound butterfly. So if you have a strap that has a buckle or a couple of rings, what you want to do is set that up into a real big circle. If you have a hard time figuring out how that should go, ask somebody else. But you want it pretty big so that you can put it around you. And it will come around your waist. Have your blocks available, but you're going to want to be in butterfly so that your soles of your feet are together, and then the strap goes around. Yeah, I did this really well. What you're trying to do is bind your feet fairly close to your pubic bone. And if you don't have a strap, that's okay. Or if you have a strap that doesn't have a buckle, that's okay. But grab your blocks, and even blocks are not necessary, they help. But from here, you want to tighten that up. So they're right on the top of your hip crest, your iliac crest. And your feet are bound in pretty close. And then you can walk your hands back and then come all the way down onto your back. And your feet get pulled even closer into your groins. And you can always pull the strap to make it tighter. To make it looser, it'll be a bigger challenge. And if you want to come down onto a block or two, you can do that too. If you want to do it on a block, get the block, one block flat underneath your underneath your shoulder blades. Then use the other block as a pillow underneath your head. If the villages provided bolsters for everybody, a bolster is really the ideal prop to use here. But allow your arms to come up by your side. And just relax. Allow your eyes to close. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose. And exhale it out through your nose. Take another cleansing breath in through your nose. Out through your nose. And let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. Just let your knees fall to wherever they are, wherever they want to be. If you find your knees are bobbing up and down, maybe grab one of your towels or a spare block and tuck it underneath, one side or the other. And that will give you a little bit more stability so that your muscles aren't firing. And listen to your breath. Notice what parts of your lungs inflate first. Maybe you can feel the air rushing through your nostrils, around your sinus cavities, where it gets warmed and moistened, and prepared to go into your lungs. Feel it rushing down the back of your throat and into your lungs. Maybe you want to put one hand on your belly and the other on your heart, although that's not necessary. But this way you can actually feel your breath. Bringing you closer to the most important parts of your body. Is your breath deep and slow? Is your breath shallow? As long as it's your natural breath, that breath that's kept you healthy all these years, there's no need to change it, correct it, or improve it in any way. Be grateful that your body can take care of it all by itself without your intervention. And that your heart beats without you thinking about every one of those 60 to 100 beats a minute that it goes through to keep the blood flowing through all your cells. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, open your eyes. And from here, see if you can slip your feet out. You may have to come up to a seated position. That's okay. You can leave the strap on for the time being or take it off. And bring your hands behind your back, behind your hips. Push your feet forward. And then rock your feet a little bit, one side to the other. And the next pose is going to be saddle. Saddle is one of my favorite poses. So I'm sure it's going to be somebody's most awfulest pose. So, and I'm married to her. So. Is that why you like it so much? No. Okay, so for saddle, you can always use a block or a towel, fold it up. But the easiest way to get into half saddle, we're going to do the right side first, is to roll over onto your left hip, bend that right knee, and then bring your right foot down on top of the mat so that your toenails are down. And then try to level up your hips. I'm going to use a rolled up towel underneath my sit bones, and that works for me. But if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. You can be sitting right on top of your heels. And if one-sided isn't working for you, put both knees back there. Make this into a hero's position. Your left foot can be straight. But if your heel is just outside of your hip, what that does, that rotates your femur in your hip socket. And that helps the health of your hip joint. Gets you a little more movement. But this, as you can tell, is a quad stretch. And it also works on your sacrum. So your left foot can be out front. It can be, the leg can be bent. Bring your hands behind your hips. And then from here, tuck your tailbone under. Now we'll sort of hollow out your belly. And you've just tilted your pelvis back. By tilting your pelvis back, it's also tilting your sacrum in your pelvis. That's the famous sacroiliac joint, your sacrum and ilium. Ilium being your pelvis. Your gaze can be up in the air, forward, straight forward. Make sure it doesn't bother your neck. And if this is good for you, you can stay here. If you'd like a little bit more intensity, you can always come down onto your back, or onto your elbows. Your right knee should still be on the floor or barely touching. And again, if you'd like a little bit of intensity increase, you can always bend that left knee, walk the foot up closer towards your left sit bone. And a little bit more might mean walking that left foot out to the side, opening up. And I've always been amazed, and I don't know why, moving your left foot like this affects your right thigh so much. But the goal in Yin is to stretch your muscles about 70% of the maximum and then become still so that your muscles begin to soften. And as your muscles soften, the tension from the pose gets transferred into your fascia, the coverings of your muscles, your connective tissues. That gets stimulated and promotes growth. And that growth gives you more space inside your body for your muscles to move. And that directly translates into more flexibility and more mobility. Begin to deepen your breath. And bring that left foot back out in front. Come back up. Roll onto your left hip again. Release that right leg back to the front. Hands behind your back. This time put your footprints on the mat. And windshield wiper your knees from left to right. And feel the difference in each side. The next time you come to center, pause. The next pose is going to be Swan on the right side. And to get there, first off, if you cannot do Swan in the conventional way, being forward, you can just lay back and do the Swan on your back. But to get to Swan from a seated position, just bend your right knee. Get your right shin roughly parallel to the front of the mat. And then over onto your right hip. Left knee comes behind your right foot, your right heel. And this is deer or 90-90. And as I've probably said too many times, is dear or 90-90 or torture to me. I can't live with that, so I'm going to just move my leg all the way back and come into a conventional swan, or for you Hatha folks, this would be pigeon. And to begin with, keep your arms straight, lifting high. Don't put more weight down on your hips. And this is a this is a glute stretch. And after about a minute, your glutes begin to soften, particularly your right glute. And maybe you can reach back and just feel that right glute. Feel how tight it is because it's being stretched so much. If those muscles don't soften, you can always put a block underneath that right butt cheek. And those muscles will start to soften automatically. And if you want to walk your hands forward, bringing your chest down towards the mat, do so. Now, if there's any pain or bad sensations in your right knee, make sure that right foot is flexed. And then if there still is, just move that right heel in towards your body center line, or move that right knee farther out. You can come all the way down onto your chest. You can put a block underneath your sternum, or underneath your collarbones. You're stretching your psoas of your left leg. Big extension there. And your adductors. Your piriformis and your psoas on the right side is an adductor when your knee is raised. And the last thing that you're really targeting is your hip socket. We'll be doing a lot of that today. Begin to deepen your breath. On an inhale, walk your hands back next to your chest. Push the floor away, lifting up your chest. Walk your hands back. Come up higher. And when you can bring that right knee back to meet the left, do so. Come into table and do a few cat-cows. You can do big circles with your hips if that works well for you. Or you can curl your toes under and lift your hips up and back into downward facing dog. You can walk out your dog. And then carefully return your knees down to the mat. And our next pose is going to be a little bit challenging for your knees. It's going to be spinal balance. So you'll be on your knees for a few minutes. Now you can always use a towel underneath your tibia. So bring your, put 4 or 8 wraps of your towel, and then make sure that your kneecaps are over the top so they're not supported. That will take the weight off of your knees. Or you can take your mat, lift it up so you have a little bit of a pillow here, and then just flatten it down. You can come right into that. But it depends on the thickness of your mat. But anyway, come back into table. Do a couple of cat-cows. And spinal balance starts by lifting your right foot up and back, stepping your footprint on the back wall. And then take your left hand and karate chop the top of your mat. And then with your pinky finger still on that mat, draw that left arm into your hips, into your shoulder socket, and then lift up that arm. Your gaze is down on the mat, next, just inside your right hand. And feel how this is working on your core. And then on an exhale, bend that knee and elbow, bring them together into a crunch. And inhale all the way back out. Exhale, crunch. Inhale all the way back out. Exhale, crunch. Inhale back out and pause here. And then for awkward airplane, on an inhale, take your left arm way out to the left and your right leg way out to the right. Try to keep both hip height. And then inhale back to center. Your gaze is still down. Exhale out. Inhale back to center. Exhale out. Bring your hand down. Drop your foot right where it is, way out to the right. Bring your toes pointed towards the front of the room. Walk your hands back and rise up into gate pose. I have no idea why this is called gate. But from here, you can set your right hand on your right leg and inhale that left arm up in the air. On an exhale, side bend to the right. Maybe you want to look up at the eye of your elbow. You don't want to come forward. That would make this into a twist. But feel this stretch from your armpit all the way down to your thigh. Maybe you can feel it all the way down to your left knee, up to your left pinky finger. Soften your breath here. And breathe into wherever the sensations are greatest. And your next inhale, come all the way up. Rotate that hand all the way down onto the mat in front of you. Bring your right hand down. Bring your right foot back in. Do a couple of cat-cows. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, take your left hand out to the side, horizontal, level with the ground, and then inhale that arm up. And then exhale, thread the needle. That left hand comes behind the right wrist, way off to the right side of the mat and beyond, coming down onto your shoulder, onto your left cheek. Your left palm is facing up. Now, an option you can do, you can walk, you can crab walk your right fingers up towards the front of your mat and beyond, opening up your right armpit. And a nice inward rotation on that left shoulder. And you're really raising that right arm up high. And breathe into wherever you feel those sensations are greatest. And try to slow down your breathing. Your palm can come down to the mat if you need it. On your next inhale, begin to walk your right hand back towards your left arm. And when you get there, push the floor away, extract your left arm out and up. And back onto the mat. Do a couple more cat-cows. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, walk your knees to one side, come down onto your favorite hip. Swing your feet around to the front of the mat. We're coming into caterpillar or seated forward fold, Dandasana, if we were doing Hatha. I'm going to use a block to elevate my sit bones so that it helps tilt my pelvis forward. I think I've suggested in the past that if you put your feet about hip width apart, which is 2 fist widths, in between the arches of your feet, you will get more space in order to do a forward fold. It's just because of the way your muscles come together. You can put a block in between your legs, maybe your head can rest. Inhale your spine tall. And exhale, walk your hands outside your legs, drawing your collarbones towards the front of your mat until your body resists, and pause there. Take the crown of your head towards the far wall. And then soften. This is not a Hatha class, so rounding your spine is good. You don't want to retain any tension in your body. especially not in your cervical spine, your neck. So maybe move your head a little bit left to right or up and down, just to make sure that nothing is seizing up. If your teeth are gritted, ungrit them. Soften your jaw. See if you can detect when your hamstrings begin to relax, or your spine, those muscles alongside each side of your spine. When do those relent? Now, if your hamstrings are just screaming at you, again, just bring your hands up and loosely touch your hamstrings. It helps if you're on a block because it creates more space available for you. But the mere act of touching is interpreted by your muscles as permission to no longer be on guard, so that they can soften. Listen carefully. In your next inhale, come up about halfway. Stretch your collarbones forward a little bit more. Maybe moon the person behind you. And then fold again. Maybe this time your feet just relax. Maybe your toes fall forward. If you have an urge to grab onto your feet, resist it, or just move your hands up on top of your ankles with your palms towards the sky. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back, raising your chest. If you're on a block, carefully remove it. Bring the hands behind your hips again. And if your feet were close together before, make them wide apart now, or vice versa. Maybe put one foot in the middle and the other out wide. See what that does. Experiment with your body. So that you can learn more about how your body responds, how it recovers, so that you can be a better steward of your survival machine. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, we're in the perfect position to roll onto your right hip, bend that left knee, and come into saddle on the left. You're welcome, Priscilla. Again, I'm going to use a folded up towel underneath my sit bones. And if you'd rather do double swan, go right ahead. If you can move your foot, your left heel farther away from your hip, what you're doing is you're making your rotation, inward rotation, even greater. I saw one lady in one of my classes, not here, but she was out at almost 40 degrees from square. Just astonishing. I hurt just thinking about it. But anyway, from here, bring your hands behind your hips. Lift your chest high. And then tuck your tailbone under again. And if you didn't feel that transition, just back up. And do it again. And your hip really can move a long way. And if this is good for you, stay here. If you want to come down onto your elbows, come on down. Again, your knees should not be in the equation at all. If your knee hurts, back up. Enjoy this quad stretch. There aren't an awful lot of quad stretches available in yoga. Between this and the cat pulling its tail during the twist, they're really the only two. Which is too bad because your quads are the largest muscle group in your body. Close your eyes and turn inside. See if you can determine what is happening in those areas where you have the most sensation. See if you can breathe more blood and oxygen to support those muscles that are struggling. Or it might be your fascia that's struggling. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, come back up to seated. Roll onto that right hip, extricating your left foot back to the front. Bring your hands behind your hips. And see what kind of windshield wipers work here. Now, if your feet are, or your legs are straight, just rolling your feet. That is exactly the same motion as windshield wipers. The only difference is in your knee. And then sit all the way up. And we're right into the right place for left swan. So again, this side may be different from your other side. Come onto your left hip after your left shin is roughly parallel to the front of the mat. You can stay in 90-90 or here, or come all the way back into swan. The farther back you can walk that right knee, the closer your pelvis comes to the mat. And everybody here is different. Everybody everywhere is different. If you have an identical twin, your histories will make this pose different. But maybe you can feel the stretch across the front of your right thigh at the top where your hip flexors are. You can begin to bring your elbows down. And if you'd like, there are a couple of other options or modifications that are available to you. You can actually target your glutes here merely by walking your hands over to the right. And then notice what that does to your glutes, your left glutes. Maybe you need to close your eyes and just reach back and see what part has been stretched more. And then go the other side. Reach and see. And wherever feels best for you is the direction you want to go. You're taking care of your own body here. I am just a tour guide. You want to get into the tightest parts of your body, and only you know where those are. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your palms back onto the mat. Start walking them back towards your hips. When you can, release that left leg back to meet the right. Boy, somebody has a creaky body. And then do some cat-cows. Feel how good that is. Maybe you want to curl your toes under. Lift your hips up and back into down dog. And know that if you have tight hamstrings, just bringing your feet out wide really helps you stretch those hamstrings. And then gently return to earth. And once you're in table, pause there. Looking down at the mat right in between your hands, lift your left foot up and back. Step that left footprint on the back wall. Reach out, karate chop the front of your mat. Draw that shoulder, that arm into the shoulder and lift up. Like you're about to shake a hand. And then on an exhale, crunch your elbow to your knee. Inhale back out. Elbow to knee. Back out. Elbow to knee. Back out. Now we have awkward airplane. Right arm out to the right on an exhale. Left foot way out. Inhale back to center. Exhale out. Inhale back to center. Exhale out. Bring your right hand down. Lower your left foot way out to the side. Walk your hands back. And come up on that right knee. Left hand on your left leg. Raise that right arm up in the air. Really reach. And then on an exhale, side bend to the left. Notice the difference between your two sides. You have different organs on your left side than your right. And then on your next inhale, rise all the way back up. Lower that right hand down. Left hand to meet it. Bring your left leg back. Do a couple of cat-cows. And really exaggerate these cat-cows. That will bring more synovial fluid to your shoulder and hip sockets. And the next time you come to center, pause. Bring the right arm out to the side and up. And then on an exhale, try getting your left hand behind the right hand behind the left, rather. Coming down onto the right shoulder. You can opt to do the modification I suggested before, walking that left hand straight towards the far wall. And see how far you get, how open you can get your shoulders. See if you can detect where your shoulder blades are. Your left side, it's risen up towards your head. Your right side, it's come way off to the side, aiding you in reaching your left hand to your right hand to the left side of your body. Soften your belly here. Slow down your breath. On your next inhale, walk your left hand back next to your face. On an inhale, push the floor away. Bring that right arm out and up. And then back into table. Do a few cat-cows. Next time you come to center, pause. The next pose is going to be a child's pose. So you can walk your knees wide as your mat, or you can make your mat wider by bringing a towel alongside. Bring your big toes together. And then walk your hands back so that your heels can come down on your glutes come down onto your heels. And then from there, trying to keep your glutes down, your hips down, walk your hands forward. Now your hips are going to come up, but over time they begin to learn to stay lower. You can rest your head on the mat if it reaches. You can put a towel or a block underneath. But once your arms are out in front, you can just lower your elbows down, supporting your forearms and hands. And if this is too much on your shoulders after the shoulder work that we've done, you can always bring your hands back down near your feet on the outside of your body. Or maybe even reach for your feet down in between your knees. And just let your shoulders relax and come down. Child's pose is a slight forward fold, rounding your spine. It's a spine lengthener and another hip opener. And in this case, it stretches or relieves your shoulders. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, put your hands next to your chest. Push the floor away, rising up. Come on to your favorite hip. Bring your feet around to the front of the mat. And then come down onto your elbows, all the way down onto your back. Make sure you have a block within reach. You walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. Your hands are next to your hips. On an inhale, tuck your tailbone under, bringing the small of your back into contact with your mat. And inhale, lift your hips up towards the ceiling. And stay here for 2 breaths. Isometrically draw your feet towards your shoulders. Push your knees towards the front of the room. And then exhale, come back down. This time, grab your block. Your block has 3 different dimensions, and you don't even need to use a block underneath your sacrum. But if you'd like a supported bridge, on the next inhale, tuck your tailbone under again, you lift your hips up, and place that block underneath your sacrum. And carefully lower back down. And test yourself. Maybe rock your hips a little left and right, forwards and backward, to see if you're stable. If you are, then maybe, it's not necessary, but maybe you want to walk your feet up towards the front of the mat. If you feel stable here and you'd like a little bit more stretch, you can always raise your hands up towards the ceiling and then forward and back down towards the far wall beyond your head. And just let go of everything. Feel your femurs being drawn down away from your pelvis by gravity. Feel the stretch across your lower abdomen, up towards your sternum. Let your feet fall in whatever direction your body wants. Begin to deepen your breath. On an inhale, return your hands back down by your sides. Walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. And when you're ready, push the floor away, lifting up your hips and removing the block and setting it back down. Draw your knees into your chest and give yourself a squeeze. Push your hips away, lengthening your spine again, and rock all the way from your left side to your right. Maybe make some circles, first one direction, and then other direction. And the next time you come to center pause, you can do happy baby, and I'll offer two different versions. The first, you can grab your arches with your hands and then lift your footprints up onto the ceiling. And trying to draw your knees down to the mat. One side at a time, you begin to rock like your grandkids. And see if you can detect which muscles are being engaged. Next time you come to center pause, and this time, grab the outsides of your feet. And again, try drawing your knees down towards the mat. And rock again. And notice the difference in the muscles being used. And the next time you come to center, pause. Release your bind. And then bring your feet back down onto the mat. Walk your feet forward slowly, all the way to the front of your mat. Bring your arms up overhead. And stretch from your heels to your palms, your toenails, your fingernails, spreading your fingers and toes wide. Turn your arms back down by your sides. Move your feet to the most comfortable position for you. Knees can be bent or straight. Knees can be on the mat or not. Arms can be wide or narrow. Allow your eyes to close. Take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose. And exhale it out through your nose. Again, in through your nose. Out through your nose. And take rest. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes, to your wrists, into your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, bend your knees, walk your feet up towards your sit bones, pull your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze and rock from left to right. Massaging your spine one last time today. And then the next time you come over towards your right side, pause there in a fetal pose, using your right arm as a pillow for just a moment, and do a quick body scan to detect any stress or tension that has been left unattended to, so that you can address it later in another class or at home. And then, using the strength in your left hand, push the floor away, rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga with me this afternoon. I'm grateful for each one of you attending to the needs and the health of your own bodies through the practice of yoga. Take the peace and compassion and empathy that you practice every time on your mat. Take that with you everywhere you go and share it with every person you meet. Namaste. My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thank you for coming.